My name is Tetiana and I'm the president of Caritas Ukraine. With the explosion that happened on the Kakhovka Dam and the consequent flooding, what we're seeing today is that the flow of water is starting to slow down. There is a little bit of receding starting already of the water. We have about 17,000 people are estimated to be affected by the flooding. It's happening both on the right bank and the left bank of the river, so both in the government-controlled areas and in the temporary occupied areas on the left bank. So there have been initially, there was a thought that the evacuations would be higher in number, but what we're finding is that people are not willing to go far away. These are largely rural communities, and they were evacuating as the water was rising. They were just evacuating by street, maybe staying with relatives or with friends, and preferring to stay close by to their homes and to their farms. So, but there were about 2,500 people have been evacuated out of the area. But again, most of them are choosing not to go too far, preferring to stay in the Kherson region, maybe to Mykolaiv. Yeah, there's the biggest issue that the government is having is with people with low mobility or people with some kind of special needs. And the importance of having facilities to be able to handle those evacuees. There's, as I mentioned earlier, this is a crisis that's just unfolding now as we speak. So there was this immediate crisis of the flooding, in the immediate need of saving people, rescuing people, evacuating people, and also animals and pets, and then also getting them shelter, getting them something warm to eat, getting them access to fresh drinking water, basic life-saving activities. But as I mentioned before, this crisis is going to be a long-term crisis because it will affect the entire region and the access of water to the entire region. There's other pieces that are affecting or that are components in the crisis. Yeah. So one of the pieces is that it swept up, the flow of the water swept up the mines, and other pieces. And then so that's been carried downstream. And as the water recedes, we're not sure how the mines are going to react and where they will be. So that's going to be a big challenge going forward in the immediate term. In addition to saving lives and people providing the basic needs for them, there's this issue of the mines. There's also an issue of contamination of the water because there was a big oil spill into the water from the dam itself. So that's another big challenge. And basically, there's people out responding. There was an initial thought that there would need to be a lot more shelter activities going on in the first days. Again, that proved to be not as needy as much as it was needed to provide water. So what we're doing right now as a Caritas organization is we've been focusing on water supplies. Yeah, so we've identified 8 communities where we've been working, and we're accessing water. They're both bottled water, and our preference is actually to bring in water for distribution. Yeah, so that so right now we're in the 5th day of the flooding since the explosion, since the dam was destroyed. And at this point, the water is starting to slow down, and in some areas, it's already starting to very slowly, the water level is starting to get lowered. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges that we're going to be facing in the immediate future is the issue of landmines, which were swept up by the flooding waters and being carried to areas where we don't know where they'll end up. And so there's a danger of not knowing how they're going to respond to being in the water, and then when the water recedes, what the situation will be with them. And that is one of the immediate challenges that's going to be faced as the water begins to recede. Yeah, so there's definitely, I mean, loss of houses. Houses are either partially destroyed or completely destroyed. And it's not just the house. When you have flooding, it's the furniture inside, it's everything. Yeah, so as we're looking at, as we go forward, we're going to be looking at the question of assessing the damage to houses and seeing what it is that we can do to help people repair their homes and move back in. That'll be a much wider context or a much wider approach to the restoration of housing than we've been looking at up until now. Up until now, we've been really focusing on houses that were destroyed by shelling, so windows, doors, roofs, a little bit of the wall destruction, and trying to close up the heating contour of houses. Yeah, so that people can freely move back in and then take their time to do additional repairs. In this case, it's a much deeper destruction. There'll also be a question of the movement of foundation and whether the house will be safe to live in even afterwards, if there will be a need for more, a deeper need for repairs. Yeah, so the short-term impacts really have to do with immediate saving of lives and evacuating people. So providing them with basic needs. That's shelter, food, water, just something to keep them going until the situation stabilizes. As we move forward, those needs will be changing as we go forward. And for certain, one need that's going to be deepening with every single day is the question of access to water, both technical water and also to drinking water, both. And that's not only in the flooded regions, but in the whole region where the Kakhovka Reservoir was serving. Yeah, so this is both individual homes and access to water, and also for agricultural purposes. That water was being used to irrigate fields. So it's going to change the whole region, and there's going to have to be immediate responses that we need to be responding to. At the same time, we want to be looking at durable solutions to the questions of drinking water. Yeah, so we were preparing initially for evacuees coming into some of our centers, and we're still prepared for that. Should that need grow in larger amounts. What we've really been focused on has been delivering water to affected communities, and that is both bottled water and also water tanks, bringing water tanks in and distributing water from water tanks. That's been our initial response. We also have teams that are assessing the situation in an ongoing fashion. We're monitoring the needs. We have some trucks coming down with food and other non-food items, so clothing. You need maybe mattresses, sleeping bags to get people through the initial period as they're looking for shelter. And we have tents available if those can be useful to be set up. We have generators as well that could be made accessible to the region. So that would be we have the immediate response, then you have a shorter term response as we're assessing needs and just answering basic things that people would need to keep going. And then the long-term needs, yes, which again will be continued. I can't repeat this enough, is this access to water. Also, I'm sure that hygiene products will be included in that, a repair of houses, and then also helping people to restart their livelihood. Yeah, so that's another piece that's going to be really important moving forward. These are largely agricultural areas that were flooded, and so there's a need to help restore basic access to agricultural, different kinds of farming. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to offer our deepest gratitude for the support that we've received through KAFOD and all the people who have contributed to that response. Thank you so much. You are making a difference to people's lives on the ground. You're helping to both save people's lives, and you're helping to provide access to basic needs in a very difficult situation. Usually when people ask me what's needed going forward, I would want to say, first of all, to please pray, continue to pray and hold the people of Kherson region, of Mykolaiv region, of Zaporizhia region, and the people of Ukraine in your prayers and in your hearts. Moving forward, we can really feel the support of the international community, and it makes a huge difference to people on the ground, both to the beneficiaries, but also to the people who are your hands and hearts and offering that help directly to people in need on the ground. So yeah, so that first element of just keeping us in your hearts and in your prayers. And then to continue to support, we have various emergency appeals that have been operating in Ukraine in the Caritas network, and it's through these emergency appeals that we're able to make a big difference, and we're able to quickly respond to different crises as they happen. I wanted to mention, sorry, I also wanted to mention another piece that will be important moving forward is, helping people with psychosocial support. Yeah, there's a large number of elderly people who are the ones who have been affected. I think the quote is about 40% people who are elderly. And the psychosocial support and is an important part also of the response. Yeah, so being there, offering care and support. And we have at Caritas, we have a network of crisis centers where we help people with multiple issues to help work through the problems and help them get back on their feet. So any support that you can offer through our emergency appeal is a great support. Thank you. In Ukraine, what we're finding is the importance of responding in the moment when something happens. So being there and being present and accompanying people in a difficult situation is life-giving. It's life-giving for the people who are receiving the aid. It's also life-giving for the people who are giving the aid. Yeah. But the second piece of that is to make sure that you walk the path all the way. Yeah. And so just an appeal to remember what's happening in Ukraine, and remember to find it in your hearts to continue to accompany us in this long path that we're on, which will be, for the way that we see it, for many years. Yeah, that there'll be a need for, there's currently a need for life-saving aid. There's a need for a stabilization aid in areas where it's a little more stable and easy. There's a need for restoration and renewal already. There's a need for binding up, broken hearts and wounds. And they're both, physical wounds. They're wounds to the very existence of people, their homes, their livelihoods, their lives. And then there's this other side of restoring the heart, yeah, and restoring community, and helping to restore a sense of trust, in others. Yeah, I think that's a really important piece of the work that we do as humanitarians. Yeah, when you have, especially in a war context, you have in a war, you're ripping at destroying relationship. Yeah, and relationship is a core thing that all of us are called to. And as the war destroys that, humanitarian aid helps to restore and recover people and renew a sense of community. And that community isn't just in Ukraine. As I mentioned before, that community is a wider community, and it includes all of you. And we're just really grateful to be together with you.